eminent members on the dais, fellow professionals, ISACA members, friends, Punekars and countrymen. It's indeed a pleasure to be here. For me, it's a milestone. And in the August gathering as this, it's something that boosts my morale as well. Nina did a couple of good things, without she realizing it. The first thing she did is that she said a lot of good things about me, and incidentally, my wife is here. The second thing that Nina did is that she recognized Aditi as the force behind this book and the publisher. So many people seated here might recognize that if you go by the wife's word, you are seldom wrong. So I'm safe on that count as well. The world that we are living in is really an interesting world. It's an interesting time. If you look at digital, the core definition of digital is something that can be expressed in zeros and ones. But in today's world, when we talk about digital, we are talking about technologies, we are talking about experiences that go beyond the mundane zeros and ones. So a technical definition of something that is being represented in zeros and ones is something that is touching the lives of all of us here. And that is the greatness of digital. Now, what are the characteristics of digital, The first is the rate of adoption. It's phenomenal. The second is the rate at which technology is growing. And thirdly, the interesting ways in which the technology is being put to use. It is not just the technology, but the way it is implemented that really makes a difference. Like I remember reading an article about some substance called as flubber or something like that, which was supposed to be very tensile or very strong or something like that. It was good to have. But when it came to practical applications, it had very few. The digital world is very different than this. Every technology is having hundreds and thousands of applications that are touching the lives of all of us. Now, if we look at technology, we should not look at technology from a technical perspective alone. Because science can do wonders, and I'm a lot of times tempted to invoke a person who is not related to technology at all, named Pablo Picasso. And he said something very fundamental about computers. Those were the early days of the computers. But even then he said, computers are useless. They can only give you answers. It is our job to ask questions. And unless we ask the right questions, we are not going to progress. Even if we progress, the progress might not be in the right direction. So it is very important that we take a dispassionate view of technology. We accept the positives, we appreciate the positives without going on either side. I remember an apt British adage which is applicable to a typical parliament scenario and all the more so in the British Parliament. And that adage says, where you stand on an issue depends on where you sit. It referred to the benches, the opposition and the treasury benches. So, as a professional, we have to go beyond that line and take a dispassionate view, a 360-degree view at the multiple aspects that pertain to technology. And only then would a true professional write a book and get honest sleep. It is time we recognize the good We recognize the bad and we recognize the ugly parts of technology and the way it is being implemented. It is not just technology, we have to see technology in a context. In my book, I have referred to the internet as the digital playground because that is where the action is happening. That is where you see a lot of data transfer happening. That is where a lot of knowledge is being created and a lot of knowledge is being transferred. Many of you might know, some of you may not know, that if you look at the number of internet users in terms of sheer internet users, India is the second most, populous country as far as usage of internet goes. The time I researched this book, there were about 335 million users in India, and it keeps on changing, the meter at the petrol station or our age. So that's why probably one of a very famous film personality said, I'm a very honest person, I can't tell you my age because it keeps on changing every second. So at that point in time it was 335 million. China was about 730 million. So China was number one, India was number two. What makes these numbers interesting is the rate at which adoption is growing. The developed countries have seen the rate of adoption come down because it has reached a saturation point and growth is tapering. But in India, about 27% of Indian population have access to the internet, and the rate at which internet addition, internet growth is increasing is a whopping 28%. And therefore all this makes it very relevant for us to understand where we are with respect to technology and what is it offering. In the book, in addition to the positives related to the technology, I have also referred to certain aspects that threaten national security. Till about 5 years ago, if anybody had told you that internet can threaten your national security, it would have been laughed at. Sanjay, who is here, he heads India's computer emergency response team, so he is well aware of what I am referring to. In the book I have mentioned a story, and incidentally there are a lot of stories in that book because I like stories. But most of them are not fables but true stories. I have referred to Stuxnet. Stuxnet was a malware that infected Iran's nuclear facility and it took back Iran's nuclear program by almost 2 years. Till that time, everybody thought, okay, and a virus, a malware, what can it do? It can render my computer useless, it can corrupt my files. But nobody thought that a cyber attack can endanger the lives of people, that cyber attacks can put the nation at risk. This is the risk that we are talking about. So what do? Do we forget it? They say ships are safest in the harbor. But that's not what ships are for. So even when we recognize that there are going to be a lot of risks, we cannot throw away the baby with the bathwater. We have to understand what are the risks. We have to build in controls. We have to build in incentives. We have to build in frameworks. And everybody has a role to play here. It is not just the technology professionals. The technology professionals of the day who are coming out of college at least know something about security. But if you look at 5 years ago, No technology professional knew anything about IT security, and that is a fact. I am willing to stick my neck out when I say this statement. So, a technology professional once told me a joke, and the joke went something like this. There was a person who came down to Pune and who had nothing to do. So he went and sat in a security conference. There was a lot of mumbo jumbo going on there. This guy sat there the whole day. They were talking about A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, something. Everything had a different name, different word, everything. In the end, at the end of the conference, he caught hold of the president of the event and said, "Hey, thank you, I was there. I did not understand anything. The only word I understand was security. Are you so conscious about it?" The person looked. He was a bit embarrassed. And he said, "Well, no. In our jargon, we don't have an exact equivalent." So this joke might take the things a little bit far. But that was where we stood. A lot has changed, and a lot is changing as well. And therefore, I have tried to take, as I said, a bit of a dispassionate view, trying to look at the benefits, trying to look at the issues, data privacy, freedom, vulnerable individuals, the threats, cyber warfare, cyber crime, the digital underworld, and the governance aspect that can help to mitigate these risks. It is a humble attempt. Feedback would be most appreciated. I do not want to claim, because it would be a very unscientific claim to make that it covers everything. All I would say that this book has been an honest attempt from my side to educate people, to bring out aspects that I felt are relevant to the digital world in terms of the opportunities and the risks. I hope the book will be well received, and I would get a feedback that will help me to improve further. Thank you. We are here to listen to two great minds speak, and I would rather stay within my Lakshman Rekha of 10 minutes, and I think I have successfully done that. Thank you so much.